First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace in our continent and to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing.
This is my video update on this Monday afternoon, March the 3rd, coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the war summit that took place yesterday in London. And that's what this was. It was a war summit, not a peace summit, convened by 008, Keir Starmer. He invited a whole bunch of collective West leaders. Trudeau was there, Meloni was there, Van der Crazy, Donald Tusk, Pirate Schultz, and Macron. The Baltic states were not invited to the war summit, much to their anger and dismay. But the purpose of the summit was how to go to war with Russia. Basically, that's what this summit was all about. How do you do this? How do you go to war with Russia without the United States? That was what they tried to figure out, and they could not figure it out. There was no way for the UK or Europe to escalate in Ukraine and to go to war with Russia without the United States. So the next question was, how do you trick the United States into going to war against Russia on your behalf? And that's what they all gathered around to try and figure out. That was the million-dollar question. How do we trick the United States of America into going to war with Russia on our behalf? How do we solve this problem? How do we do this? And they couldn't quite solve it. They couldn't quite figure it out. But Starmer, he did put out a statement when the summit was over. And he said that the countries in attendance agreed to more sanctions against Russia. More sanctions. more sanctions, okay? More sanctions against Russia. That they agreed on Ukraine's sovereignty, which is Starmer's way of saying pre-2014 borders and Crimea and all of that stuff. Never going to happen, but that's another point that Starmer put out there in his statement. He said that the collective West is going to continue to send weapons to Ukraine, continue to arm Ukraine with weapons, build up their military. And then he said, UK boots on the ground. That's right, boots on the ground. Fighter jets in the air, fighter jets in the sky, he said. Ships in the sea, the Black Sea, and boots on the ground. This was Starmer's 4-point plan, or all of the countries in attendance. This was basically what they agreed on in principle, I guess you could say. These are the 4 points from this war summit. And this is going to be a coalition of the willing. That's what the group is going to be called. The coalition of the willing. God. Oh, where did I hear that one? Where have I heard coalition of the willing before? I know, Bush. Bush in Iraq. That's right, coalition of the willing. The scriptwriters in London could not come up with an original term. They couldn't come up with something original. They had to go back to Iraq. Iraq, WMDs, the bogus, illegal, Bush, George W. Bush. Iraq, coalition of the willing. My God. Good job, Starmer. Good job. Good job, scriptwriters in London. That's how you win the Americans over. That's how you get the U.S. on your side. Help them remember Iraq, WMD, mission accomplished. George W. Bush. That'll win the Americans over. Coalition of the willing. That's what this group is being called. UK to defend Ukraine, peace deal with coalition of the willing, Starmer says. Then you have the photo of the coalition of the willing, the coalition of the delusional. They're good at these photos, huh? They're very good at these meetings. They're very good at these photos. They're very good coming out with all of these statements and all of this war rhetoric. But without the United States, they cannot do anything. So the plan to get the United States into a hot war with Russia is going to be, as expressed by Macron, a no-fly zone. A no-fly zone. We've been here before. That's why I'm laughing. We've been through all of this 1,000 times. 1,000 times we've come up with these plans. Here we are again with a no-fly zone. Macron is saying that the UK and France, they've put together a plan, or they're in the process of finalizing a plan, which will consist of UK and French forces controlling the Black Sea. Then they will control the nuclear reactors. They will control the gas facilities. They will control the skies, right? Fighter jets, typhoons. They will control the skies. And, see, they will control the skies like the pigeons control the skies. And then when things calm down in a month's time, when things calm down, then they will put boots on the ground. That's their plan. A no-fly zone. A no-fly zone, controlling the Black Sea, reactors, gas facilities, gas transit. They're going to control all of that, and that's going to be the ceasefire. And when Russia capitulates to this Macron plan, then the troops, the ground forces, will enter Ukraine. And that's what they're going to pitch to Trump, by the way. This is their brilliant plan that they're going to pitch to Trump, because what they want from the United States is they want the United States to provide the backstop. You will protect us, right, Trump? If we send a fighter jet over Ukraine and the Russian military shoots it down, you'll come in and protect us, right? Right? If we send ships into the Black Sea. That's why Turkey was there, by the way. I'm sure that's why they invited the foreign minister of Turkey to this event, because they want to talk about access to the Black Sea. Positive, that's why Turkey was there. And if we send a ship, whatever ships we have, into the Black Sea, and then the Russians hit the ship, you're going to protect us, right, Trump? Right, U.S.? You're going to go to war with Russia, right? Right? That's what they want to present to Trump. Macron details French-UK peace plan for Ukraine. Paris and London want to stop the fighting between Moscow and Kiev, but not at any cost, the president said. The French-UK plan envisages a temporary month-long truce in the air, on the seas, and on energy infrastructure, Macron said. A contingent of Western European peacekeepers, led by France and the UK, would be deployed to Ukraine at a later stage when the situation on the ground is safe for them, he added. So that's the plan, a no-fly zone. Brilliant thinking from Macron and 008. So Ursula, she is talking about creating a fund, an EU defense fund. That is what she got out of this London war summit. Don't get me wrong, Ursula and the European Union absolutely wants to continue the war in Ukraine. They absolutely want to escalate with Russia. They want to see regime change in Moscow. They want to see the balkanization of the Russian Federation. Kaja Kallas has said that the plan is the balkanization and the destruction of the Russian Federation. But what really excites Ursula, what she's good at, is creating these EU funds. And now she's talking about creating a big defense fund and pouring tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of euros into this defense fund where she will build an EU army and an EU military industrial complex. And how is all of this going to be funded? Because EU member states are broke and bankrupt and they don't have the money to put into these Ursula funds. Well, Eurobonds, money printing, inflation, taxation. That's Ursula's plan, and she's excited about it. They're not going to build anything. Believe me, they're not going to build anything. They're not capable of building stuff. And with what energy? Where are you going to get the energy from? Where? Tell me where. They're not going to build anything. They've tried this a dozen times over the past 3 years to manufacture artillery shells. Remember that one? The EU is going to provide 1 million artillery shells to Ukraine. This was Jungle Joseph's bright idea. And Pavel, that guy's a genius. Pavel of Czech Republic. They came up with the idea of 1 million artillery shells to the Zelenskyy regime. And the EU member states were going to either put money into this big pot where Borrell and Pavel would travel around the world and purchase artillery shells, or the EU member states would donate their own artillery shells from their own stockpiles, and the EU would reimburse them for the artillery shells that they donated to Ukraine, to the EU, and then to Ukraine. And this thing failed, completely failed. They didn't get to 1 million artillery shells. They barely got to 300,000 artillery shells, and half of those shells, if not most of those shells, all of those shells, were overpriced. The EU overpaid, and they were all duds. They were defective duds. that was their plan, their brilliant plan for artillery shells. Now they want to build big military factories. Ursula's excited. She's excited. We must urgently rearm Europe. All Europeans must invest in defense. That is what Ursula said. She also promised to change the EU budget and financial rules implemented by the European Commission to give countries more room for massive public investment in weapons productions. She said that Europe has to turn Ukraine into a steel porcupine. That's what she said. Europeans need to work on turning Ukraine into a steel porcupine, indigestible to potential invaders. Indigestible to potential invaders? Oh, make it stop. Make it stop. Please make it stop. Please, Trump, Putin, just come to an agreement and make it stop. Oh, I can't take any more of hearing these types of statements from these boneheads. An indigestible porcupine. An indigestible steel porcupine. Porcupine. We have to turn Ukraine into a porcupine, steel porcupine.
But we need comprehensive security guarantees. This includes that we have to put Ukraine in a position of strength, that it has the means to fortify and protect itself, from the economic survival to the military resilience. It's basically turning Ukraine into a steel porcupine that is indigestible for potential invaders. And therefore the focus is not only on the military supply, but also, for example, securing the energy system and making sure that over time this is a strong and resilient country. The second element I brought to the table is that we urgently have to rearm Europe. And for that I will present a comprehensive plan how to rearm Europe on the 6th of March when we have our European Council to the leaders.
These people are insane. They're making me insane. I'm making insane videos. Let's get some sanity. How about this post from Orban? European leaders decided in London today that they want to go on with the war instead of opting for peace. They decided that Ukraine must continue the war. This is bad, dangerous, and mistaken. Hungary remains on the side of peace. Centerum censeo. Some sanity from Orban, thank God. CNN put out an article with the title, Europeans Embrace Zelenskyy After He Was Vilified by Trump. Well, he is the Green Goblin, so he is a villain. He's the villain of Spider-Man, so CNN's title is really not that far off, right? Trump doesn't really need to vilify him. It's the Green Goblin. he's the arch villain of Spider-Man. Mike Waltz is saying that Zelenskyy has to go. Mike Johnson is saying that Zelenskyy has to go. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Of course, they were on the Sunday talk shows in the United States, mainstream media, and they say, look, Zelenskyy has to apologize. He has to figure out a way to make amends. I don't know, to approach us again, to come to his senses. I mean, they say all these things, but the message, the main message from Waltz and Johnson, Speaker of the House, is that Ukraine needs a new president. We're not going to be able to come to peace in Ukraine, which is what President Trump wants. That's what they said. President Trump wants peace. Obviously, Zelenskyy will not negotiate. He's not interested in negotiating. And so we need a new leader in Ukraine. And Zelenskyy gave an interview while he was in London. And he said that he is ready to sign the deal. Now he's ready to sign the deal. He's ready to sign it. But he has one condition. One condition before he signs the deal. Ukraine has to get into NATO. You see, you can't deal with these people. You just can't deal with these people. I'm sure we've all dealt with people like Zelenskyy in our lives. You try to deal with them. You try to knock some sense into them. You try to negotiate a contract with them. I don't know. We've all run across an Zelenskyy in our lives. But after a while, no matter how much you try, you just can't deal with them. There it is, Zelenskyy. I'm ready to sign now I'm ready to sign the deal, he says. Now I'm ready. But Ukraine has to be put into NATO. And then he said he'll resign as well. He'll sign the deal, he'll resign, but Ukraine has to get into NATO. Trump posted on Truth Social, we should spend less time worrying about Putin and more time worrying about migrant gangs, drug lords, murderers, and people from mental institutions entering our country so that we don't end up like Europe. The main part of this post from Trump, which I find important, is where he said we should spend less time worrying about Putin. The United States and Russia, Putin and Trump, should definitely accelerate negotiations, which there are reports saying that they are accelerating the negotiations. A meeting in Riyadh is going to happen soon, and Trump-Putin is also going to happen very soon. What they need to do is they need to accelerate dialogue, accelerate negotiations, accelerate the normalization of relations. If you can fix Ukraine, great. If you can't fix Ukraine because of Zelenskyy, don't worry about it. There are so many issues that the United States and Russia need to discuss, so many issues that they can work together on. Yes, Ukraine is the biggest one, but they have other things that they can discuss and just move the normalization along. Because when you take a step back, once the United States and Russia, even if they can't figure out Ukraine at this moment, they can't figure it out, fine, no problem. But if they normalize relations and they're talking to each other, the embassies are operating, and they resume flights, commercial flights. There are reports saying that commercial flights may resume. They're talking about it. Commercial flights, Moscow to New York to Moscow. That's awesome. If they can do all these things, then Europe is cooked. The EU is done. There's nothing they can do. The escalation, the drive to war against Russia, impossible. Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The normalization process is the easiest way, the most rational way to get to peace. The normalization between the United States and Russia. That's the pathway to a peace and to a lasting peace. And you have the article about Nord Stream. I find this one really interesting. I don't know if I believe this. It is coming from the Financial Times, but they put out an article with the title, Putin ally pushes deal to restart Nord Stream 2 with U.S. backing. Ex-spy warnings plan to involve American investors shows breadth of Trump's rapprochement with Russian president. So this is interesting because the Financial Times is reporting that Russia, some Russian officials and Russian business people involved in Nord Stream, they're contacting U.S. business people and Trump officials via back channels, and they're basically telling them, look, let's reopen Nord Stream. That's a good way to create trust and to normalize our relationship. Let's work on this together. Let's get U.S. investment into Nord Stream, and let's talk about starting Nord Stream up again, Nord Stream 2, which is an interesting idea, a very interesting idea, if it's true. Like I said, I don't quite believe this, but who knows? It's possible. Why not? All you have to do, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. You create a company, a joint venture, Russia and the United States, like TurkStream. Russia sells the gas to this joint venture, U.S. and Russia, U.S. business, Russian business. They sell the gas to this joint venture, and this joint venture is then responsible for transiting the gas to Germany. Just like TurkStream. Russia sends the gas to Erdogan, and whatever Erdogan wants to do with it, his problem. Erdogan buys the gas, and he makes the deals with the Europeans for the gas. You create the same setup. The same exact setup. That's what you do. And this ties in the United States and Russia. And then they sell the gas at a markup, so they all make money to Germany. So Germany could have gotten the gas at $1, but this joint venture sells it to Germany at $3, and Germany's going to take it, and Europe's going to take it. Do they have any choice? No, they don't have any choice. You do something like that. It's oh my God, the times we live in. The European Union. The EU officials, German officials, Olaf Scholz, Annalena Habeck, these people, these people, my God. What a mess they've made of things. What a complete mess. The EU failed. Germany and the European Union, they failed to go after Gilligan, who blew up Nord Stream. So they failed to go after Gilligan after he blew up Nord Stream. The Apprentice, comes in. He comes along, and The Apprentice offers to resume Nord Stream gas to Europe. That's what we're talking about here. How do you protect Nord Stream from Gilligan? You call in the apprentice to protect Nord Stream from Gilligan. And the apprentice sells it to the Europeans at a profit. Russia's happy, they get their money. The apprentice is happy, he gets his money. Gilligan doesn't think about blowing up Nord Stream anymore, and the EU gets screwed once again. Oh my God. Should we do some clown worlds? Let's do some clown worlds. Lindsey Graham is fighting with the Green Goblin. Who would have called that one, huh? Who had that one on their bingo card? I mean, Lindsey Graham is in an open public dispute with the Green Goblin. So the Green Goblin, in the interview that he gave the other day, where, in the interview that he gave the other day, he was asked about Graham's comments, where Graham said that Zelenskyy should resign. The statement that he made the other day after the meltdown at the White House. And Zelenskyy said to the interviewer, if Graham wants him to resign, he can move to Ukraine for his voice to have weight. That's what Zelenskyy said. If Graham wants me to resign, then he should move to Ukraine for his voice to have weight. Okay. And Graham said, until there is an election, no one has a voice in Ukraine. That is what Graham said. Not a very sexy or dramatic type of fight between Graham and the Green Goblin, but it's a fight. It's a row. That's Zelensky's response to everything, isn't it? Whenever someone criticizes him, even just a little bit of criticism, just a little bit, the slightest of criticism, his response is always, come to Ukraine. That's always his response. That's what he told J.D. Vance. That's what he's telling Graham. Come to Ukraine. And that's when Vance told him, Mr. President, notice how Vance was calling Zelenskyy Mr. President when Zelenskyy was calling the vice president J.D. But Vance's response was perfect when Zelenskyy said, come to Ukraine. Vance said, Mr. President, everyone that comes to Ukraine, that takes you up on your offer, it's just a propaganda trip. That's all it is. It's controlled, and you take them on a propaganda tour. You don't take them to see the reality of what's happening in Ukraine. Abducting people up off the streets and sending them to the front line, sending 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds to the front line. You don't show people any of that. It's a propaganda tour, and Vance called him out on that. Very smart, very well played by Vance. I think that's the clown world for today. I don't think I have another clown world. A lot of talk about whether Zelenskyy said a bad word about Vance. I won't repeat the word. It is a very bad word. If he did say this, I don't know if he said it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I will say this. Zelenskyy has a very foul mouth. He likes to curse a whole lot. In the interview that he gave with Lex Friedman, he cursed a whole lot. Even Lex Friedman had to put out a statement saying how unhappy he was with the language that Zelenskyy used during the interview. And remember that interview with Meet the Press? I think it was Meet the Press, NBC, where Zelenskyy dropped the F-bomb, talking about Putin. So if you don't believe that Zelenskyy was cursing at Vance, maybe he wasn't cursing at Vance, but history tells us that Zelenskyy does have a potty mouth. He does have a potty mouth, that's for sure. That's the video, the Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like what I'm wearing in this video update. You will find a link in the description box down below. Greek a Greek phone booth. All right, take care.